Hey, everybody. This is Nevin Gusak, your host of the Populist Patriot. This is going to be my last live stream for this evening. Came across this article in Breitbart, dated from by Paul Boys, dated from July 7th, 2022. A federal grand jury indicted 5 men in Brooklyn this week for allegedly participating in a, quote, transnational repression scheme orchestrated by the People's Republic of China to silence critics of the communist country in the United States. And one of the defendants currently serves as a federal law enforcement officer, while another is a retired federal law enforcement officer. And these American law enforcement officers plotted allegedly to destroy the artwork of a communist Chinese national residing in the U.S., in Los Angeles, in the U.S., California, who was critical of the People's Republic of China government and planted surveillance equipment in the artist's workplace and car to spy on him from the PRC, which is the acronym official name for China, the so-called People's Republic of China. And they worked, by the way, for the Department of Homeland Security. According to Assistant Attorney General for National Security Matthew G. Olson, said that 5 men sought to quash these DHS officers sought to quash free speech and political expression in the United States on behalf of a foreign power. These DHS officials allegedly provided to Communist China, quote, confidential information about U.S. residents from a restricted law enforcement database, and then proceeded to destroy all evidence of their wrongdoing when confronted by law enforcement. Well, it shows that communist penetration of the American government is alive and well. And these are topics that are covered by people like a Jeff Nyquist or a Frank Gaffney or a Trevor Loudon or Cliff Kincaid of America Survival, formerly of the Accuracy in Media. I've covered it in my books and in various episodes of this show. And this is another penny in the jar that proves that the Russians, the Chinese, and their allies continue to not only attempt, but even to successfully penetrate and utilize even elements of the American national security apparatus to fulfill their goals. And what concerns me, if there's a red dawn comes to pass against the United States, where the Chinese and the Russians start not only attack the United States with their limited use of highly destructive strategic weapons, there are going to be American collaborators. This proves that there will be American collaborators. There will be Americans from all walks of life that will collaborate with the Russian and Chinese invaders. Now, you think I'm all crazy. Red Dawn is just a movie with a bad remake made some years ago. What was it, 2012? Well, I submit to you it's a reality. We talk about General Chi Hao-shin's speech to the Central Military Commission years and years ago, talking about an occupation of the United States after the United States population was cleared massively by biological weapons launched by the PRC. Or we take a look at what Colonel Stanislav Lunev testified to the effect. He was of the Russian GRU, or military intelligence, where he talked about how the Russians and the Chinese would jointly invade the United States and Canada. Russia would re-annex Alaska and would occupy parts of Canada, while the Chinese People's Liberation Army will occupy the lower 48 with various allies of Russia and China from the third world being invited to what Lunev referred to as looting rights. During the Cold War, you have the revelations of Major General Jan Shana, who revealed to Dr. Joseph D. Douglas, as printed in Ending Nuclear War, or The Superpowers Ready, I believe, or as the title by Cimbala, Cimbala, and Dr. Joseph D. Douglas Jr. And he talks about how Shana testified that in 1967, all about those Soviet war plans against the United States, including their occupation plans. And I talk about it in my book, Red Dawn in Retrospect, as well as on various segments of this program, as well as in my book, Turning the Page, Volume 1. And the thing of it is that Red Dawn is real. And Shana predicted that Americans would collaborate from the extreme left, from big business, left-wing senators, and also certain scientists and academics, including elements of the new left and the old left, like the CPUSA, as well as middle-class radicals and black power radicals of the new left. And there are certainly Americans right now as we speak that are paving the way for a weakened United States that is ripe to be taken over by communist China and Putin's Russia. And there are allies all over the place, including in the most unexpected places. You would think that the DHS would be comprised of mostly loyal Americans, and no doubt, I'm sure the majority of DHS officers are there either to make a living or to protect the country, or a combination of both. But let's not make mistakes about it. The Russians and the Chinese seek to penetrate our CIA, our FBI, with a certain degree of success, I might add, as well as now the DHS, as well as other departments and agencies of the federal government, and corporate America involved in intelligence-related tasks or contracts with intelligence or defense industries, or the military. So they're everywhere. And the sooner we accept this reality, the more we can craft domestic security and national security policies that will protect this country and will prevent penetrations and by China and Russia using our own citizens against our institutions. And look, I support radical reform of our institutions compared to what most conservatives want. But the reality of the situation is we still have to preserve the country. Just because I'm highly critical of many policies of the federal government, of big business, doesn't mean I want these institutions completely destroyed. I want a strong America. A strong America is ultimately the only priority of this show. And what this is proving is communist penetration is alive and well. I mean, under Obama, you had Communist Party USA officials admitting that they penetrated the Democratic Party. I talk about that in Red Dawn in Retrospect, as well as Turning the Page, Volume 1. It's a small party compared to the size of the Democratic or Republican Party, their membership rolls, but they're very well organized and they know what they want and they have a goal to achieve, which is ultimately a revolution in the United States and the imposition of a so-called dictatorship of the proletariat, i.e. a communist totalitarian police state. China and Russia have penetrated our institutions. They have exploited the greed of the American business community against us. And they use big business lobbies, which pours monies into the campaigns of senators and congressmen, which means they influence them that way. I mean, it was former Clinton-era China ambassador James Sasser who admitted that China doesn't need to send their own agents directly to, meaning their diplomats and officials, to always lobby American Congress to support trade privileges for the People's Republic of China. They just let American businessmen do the job. And that's our own ambassador under the pro-engagement Clinton administration. And the Communist Chinese have admitted that in their own respect. In recent years, I think I might have covered this on this show, the Chinese have admitted that they use Wall Street, that Wall Street is an ally of China against American national security and American economic independence. And that was a leaked recording, and it made news. Maybe not on CNN or Fox News or MSNBC, but the print news on the internet, as well as various YouTube or online radio or YouTube commentators, it made news with us, those of us who are concerned about the threat of Beijing and Moscow. So what this proves is we need very thorough counterintelligence efforts to weed out the traitors within the United States that are working on behalf of hostile foreign powers. And we also have to rethink of this idea that we can play patty cake with our geopolitical enemies under the guise of engagement. We tried to engage the Soviet Union. It didn't work. It didn't make them less of a hostile, expansionist, totalitarian power. We tried to engage with National Socialist Germany through deals between big business and German corporations, which were in many respects creatures of the Third Reich. They were not independent businessmen. That didn't work out so well. We sold oil and gasoline, high octane, to Japan, scrap metal, and other important materials. And Japan was going into China, tearing up the shop and committing atrocities like the rape of Nanjing. All the while, American corporations were sending gasoline and cotton and scrap metal, amongst other vital commodities and manufactured goods, to Japan. It didn't make them any nicer. Engagement didn't make them nicer. So the bottom line is this is what we get for engagement. So what do we get for engagement? Lost American jobs, massive penetrations of our government, including our national security apparatus, and war plans against the United States. What possibly could go wrong? I mean that sarcastically. So again, ladies and gentlemen, I keep on using the word pennies in the jar. This is another penny in the jar that shows that China is not our friend. I mean, people will say, well, we do it with China. Well, there's no moral equivalence to China. Yes, America is a plutocratic oligarchic government. I granted that. But it has a schizophrenic policy towards Red China. While China is using the weaknesses of the current American system of neoliberalism to bury the United States, exploiting notions of engagement, free trade, and peaceful cooperation against us, so they could get the maximum benefits from us while giving us nothing of any value. And now they're using American citizens to infringe upon the liberties of liberty-loving Chinese nationals in the United States. And this shows, ladies and gentlemen, that come Red Dawn, whatever the revised Russian-Chinese war plans are against the United States, you can bet that there will be American nationals collaborating with Beijing and Moscow and whatever allies of theirs decides to also cooperate with them in bringing down the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for listening, and I will be having more live streams. And be sure to click on the like button if you like the video. Be sure to comment. Whether you agree with what I say or not, just be respectful, because I will delete disrespectful comments. But I'll leave comments that disagree with me as long as it's respectful. It's cool. Shows you're thinking. It's okay. We could have polite disagreement. Don't care. But if you're going to call me names or insult me, and that has happened a couple of times, I'm just going to delete your comment. Goodbye. Good riddance. I'm for free speech, but with certain limitations. You can't shout fire in a crowded theater. Not on my channel. Be sure to tell other people about this program, The Populist Patriot, because a lot of the news that I'm covering, you're not going to get on Fox News. You're not going to get on MSNBC. You're certainly not going to get it on CNN. You're not going to get it on conservative talk radio. Mark Levin is not going to give you a perspective like this. Sean Hannity is not. Morning Joe is generally not going to give you these perspectives. And there are a lot of online commentators that probably will not either, or they'll give you bits and pieces of it. But here I'm giving you what I consider a rather unique perspective of radical civic nationalism. And it is my, I don't want to say duty, I guess. Maybe that's the poor choice of words, but it's very important to me as much as possible that I give you pieces of news, some of which are not covered by other channels, or historical information or discussions on articles. You're not going to get this perspective and information on most of your other channels. I will say that. And I encourage you to share these videos, to share the program. Feel free to go on Amazon.com to purchase my books. You're going to get a lot of great information, a lot of great perspectives. And I want to thank you all for listening to my live streams this evening. I hope you all have a great evening. Be safe out there. God bless America. God bless you all for listening. Stay safe and have a great night.